The sea gives back what it wants. But sometimes, what it returns no longer belongs to our world. July 1987. 3 months had passed since the Estrela do Sul vanished without a trace somewhere in the Atlantic. Then, at 4:17 a.m., the Portuguese Coast Guard received an emergency transmission from a small fishing vessel near the Azores Islands. The fisherman, Manuel Peixoto, sounded terrified. "There's a ship out here, just floating. No lights, no people. But I can see the name on the side. It's Brazilian, Estrela do Sul." The timestamp on the transmission matched something chilling. 04:17 a.m., the same time recorded in the Estrela do Sul's last log entry before disappearing. Coincidence or not, that detail would be the first of many that defied logic. Hours later, the Portuguese patrol vessel Santa Clara was dispatched to investigate. The crew expected wreckage, perhaps a half-sunken hull. But what they found seemed impossible. There it was, the Estrela do Sul, floating silently under a gray morning sky, the hull intact, the structure unbroken, the ship whole, yet eerily lifeless. The sides were coated in a thick crust of green algae and barnacles, as if it had been underwater for years. But the ship had been missing for just 90 days. Commander Miguel Afonso, who led the operation, later wrote in his official report, "It looked as if the vessel had been pulled out of the depths minutes before we arrived. There was a strange smell in the air, sweet and rotten at the same time. And the silence. I have never heard silence like that. Even the sea seemed to hold its breath." At 9:26 a.m. they boarded. Every step echoed through the hollow corridors. On deck, salt crystals covered the floor. Every rope had been cut, not worn, cut cleanly. Cabin doors stood open, swinging slightly in the breeze. Inside, everything seemed frozen in time. Half-eaten food on tables, cigarettes extinguished mid-smoke, beds neatly made. And in the captain's cabin, a clock, stopped precisely at 04:17. On the captain's desk lay the Estrela do Sul's logbook. The last known entry was already public. "They called me. The San Telmo needs a captain." But beneath that, written in a different hand, shaky, uneven, was another line. "The captain has returned." The investigators photographed the page, but the original logbook later disappeared during its transfer to Lisbon. No one ever explained how. In the same cabin, a corroded bronze medallion was found embedded in salt residue on the floor, bearing the image of Saint Elmo, the sailors' patron saint. According to forensic specialist Carlos Figueira, the artifact appeared to have been underwater for decades, though the engraving remained perfectly legible. At sunset, as the crew surveyed the stern, one of the men spotted something entangled in the seaweed. It was a body, dressed in a blue uniform, the uniform of the Estrela do Sul. Identification confirmed it was first mate João Barros. What puzzled everyone was the condition of the corpse. It was not decomposed, not bloated, not waterlogged. Instead, the skin was completely dry, leathery, like something mummified by time. The medical report, filed as PC 87-341, stated, "No signs of drowning. Tissue desiccated and hardened. Appears preserved by constant airflow, not seawater exposure." In his left hand, João clutched a fragment of paper. Under ultraviolet light, a single sentence was deciphered. "The sea is breathing again." The Santa Clara's logs detail several unexplained phenomena during the operation. Magnetic instruments malfunctioned. Compasses spun uncontrollably. Even the ship's radio emitted noise, while turned off. Through the static came a voice, raspy and distorted. "Day 5. Do not go beyond day 5. It was the same phrase recorded months earlier, the final transmission from the Estrela do Sul before it vanished. Crewman Ribeiro, interviewed years later, described it like this. That voice wasn't coming from the radio. It was coming from the ship itself, from the hull, like the vessel was whispering. Around midnight, divers attempted to scan below the hull using sonar. Every reading failed. The system displayed only one message. No return signal. The official log recorded, "The depth beneath the ship is unmeasurable. The sonar pulse does not return. It's as if the seabed has vanished." Bubbles began surfacing around the ship, slow and rhythmic, as though something beneath was breathing. The commander ordered the Estrela do Sul to be towed back to Horta in the Azores. But halfway through the journey, something else happened. At 3:02 a.m., the Santa Clara vanished from radar for 7 minutes. When it reappeared, it was 12 kilometers off course. The crew reported an instant fog that surrounded the ship and turned the ocean black. Commander Afonso wrote in his private log, "The sea turned dark, not blue, not gray, but black. And in the distance, we saw another ship. It was the Estrela do Sul, but cleaner. No algae, no decay. When we tried to approach, it disappeared." The event was filed as an unverified atmospheric anomaly, and no further investigation was opened. By October 1987, the Estrela do Sul was officially declared abandoned and unrecoverable, case closed. But among the files archived in Lisbon was a cassette tape, a recovered radio transmission from the ship's emergency channel. The recording was never made public, but according to those who heard it, the final 30 seconds contained a man's voice. "We're seeing lights beneath the hull. They look like men. My God, they're looking up at us." The tape was sealed and sent to the Naval Archive in Cascais. Soon after, it too went missing. Decades later, the legend of the Estrela do Sul continues. Fishermen around the Azores still claim to see, on calm nights, a dark silhouette drifting across the horizon. No lights, no sound, and sometimes a second ship trailing behind it, identical in shape, but darker, like a shadow. In 2012, a group of Spanish radio amateurs detected a transmission on a defunct maritime frequency, unused since the 1980s. The signal lasted 37 seconds. Amid the static, a whisper could be heard repeating one phrase, "Turn back," before the 5th day. Then silence. Today, the Estrela do Sul remains one of the Atlantic's greatest unsolved maritime mysteries. Officially, an accident. Unofficially, a wound that never healed. A reminder that there are places in the ocean that do not belong to us, and some voyages never truly end.